Schönen guten Abend. Ich freue mich, Sie hier begrüßen zu dürfen und ich freue mich, Sie auf eine Reise mitzunehmen.
Daniela, espera un momento. La presentación debe de ser en español, no en alemán.
I thought we were going to do this in English, so can we start over?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, take it away.
So, good evening, everybody. We are the GBC Travel Agency, and we want to take you guys on a journey around the globe. My name is Tanidra, and we're going to talk to you guys about culture shock, our personal experiences, and how to deal with it. Now, there are 5 stages to culture shock. The first stage is the honeymoon stage. This is when you go to this new place, say you go to Europe, you want to try the new experiences, try the new foods. The next thing you know, you go into the distress stage. This is when you start to feel confused. You feel like everyone that you had connection with at home, they're no longer close to you, so it makes you kind of feel distraught. Then you go into the reintegration stage where you start to reject everything. You no longer feel like yourself. You feel like you have this wall blocking you from trying these new experiences, so you basically want to go home. You feel like you're alone. Then you're in the autonomy stage where you begin to accept everything again, but slowly. These new experiences no longer feel frustrated, and you stop isolating yourself and you begin to appreciate more where you are. Then you are now in the independent stage where you completely embrace where you are. You feel as though this is your new culture and it's something that you can eventually become one. And now we're going to take you on a trip to Mexico.
Blah, 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 blah. Is that what you heard when Daniela and I were talking to you in German and Spanish? Now imagine that when you are 9 years old and you are saying goodbye to Bienvenidos a Mexico and you are being welcomed to the United States. I was 9 years old. I was nervous, I was anxious, and I was scared. But I was also incredibly excited for what new lay ahead. I want to take you with me back to Mexico and see it the way I saw it when I went back versus when I came here. I want to share with you the food, the misconception, as well as the holidays. Now, the food. When I first came to the United States of America, the food was so different. I'd never seen packaged. I'd never seen preserved food. I'd never seen frozen food. I've never laid an eye on microwave or refrigerator. And all of a sudden, I saw pizza, I saw burgers, I saw cheesesteaks. And I didn't know what it was. All I know is there was too much salt. This is the food I was used to. I was used to mariscos. I was used to mole. I was used to tamales. You never experience true Mexican cuisine until you go to Mexico. And in Mexico, that's gastronomía mexicana. No restaurant here can rival that. Now, many of you love eating Mexican food in this holiday. Cinco de Mayo. Did you know Cinco de Mayo is not a Mexican holiday? It's a very much Americanized holiday. People think that it's Independence Day, but it's not. Mexico won the Battle of Puebla against the French. It made the difference between speaking French and Spanish, not Independence Day. So Cinco de Mayo, you go to Mexico, nothing's going on. Next thing, the holidays. Have you ever seen this? Well, this is Dia de los Muertos, Halloween. We, in Mexico, honor our dead during this day. You see folk dances, people dress up in folk clothing, and this is where you can show up your artistry in your face. When I first came here and I had to go and knock on somebody's door and ask for candy, I thought that was kind of weird. But one thing that really scared me was I was terrified of Santa Claus because I'd never seen him. I didn't know who he was. This is Christmas in Mexico. Piñatas, pulseras. This all will shoot off fireworks on the 24th at midnight. This is what you get to see in Mexico. So I hope that with that in mind, you can travel one day to Mexico and experience the holidays, the food, no Cinco de Mayo, because we don't celebrate that. And now you're going to Ukraine with Christina.
Hi. Okay. Hi, my name is Christina Hudema. My grandparents immigrated from Ukraine, and they taught my dad from a very young age, so that's why I know the language so well. So the 4 misconceptions are food. They drink a lot. They're unemotional, and Ukrainian and Russian are the same language. So the 4 misconceptions are: if you eat solid, like that's like bad for your arteries, and then the second one is like if you have people over, then like you drink, like that's the common courtesy there. And then in the capital, like you hear a mix of both, and then like if you go out more, you hear more Ukrainian. And then the 4th one is that when I was there back in 2015, my teta, she would like get like very like personal and like touch my hair, and like be all like touchy feely. And then my experience was that like there was like unfinished construction, and then like the airport was silent, and then like once you go there, you see like a lot of like sightseeings and everything, but like overall, like you have like beautiful churches and monasteries, and then like you see like interesting people, and you get to know them. And then we're going to Germany.
Imagine 1994. So that means no cell phones, no internet readily available, no FaceTime. Imagine the English language skills of a well-spoken 2-year-old. And a ticket in the hand in DC after a long flight from Germany, and you're in the US. Hi, my name is Daniela Dunlap, and I want to talk about my experience of being an exchange student when I was 16 years old. I went with a group called Youth for Understanding, and they are comprised of some people that work there, and mostly volunteers that have taken this trip to the US as well. And I want to talk about my journey, about the immersion into the culture here, about my eventual culture shock, and then I had to go back to Germany, so my reintegration into Germany. When I got to the US after the initial, I couldn't speak any English, and I was at the gate, and the security people talked to me, and I had no idea what they were saying, so all I did was nod and smile. And I stayed with a family that I've never met before. I've communicated in letters with them. I loved everything, though. It was amazing. It was just like it was on TV, and I went to high school, and I got all these new things and new experiences that I was able to, partake. And it was fantastic. I even so I was in Iowa, I have to say that. We went to the Field of Dreams. I don't know if anybody has ever seen that movie. It's a Kevin Costner movie. And one of the things that they say there is this heaven? No, it's Iowa. I actually have a bumper sticker that says that. And so I was really immersed into this. And then eventually the novelty wears off. Right? And then you kind of become homesick a little bit. You miss your family, And then there's certain differences in the culture. So, people said, hey, how you doing? But they don't want to know how you are. They don't really want to know. So you launching into this, oh, my grandmother called the other day, and that's no. Or the food, I loved the food, and I, enjoyed eating all those different foods because they tasted so different, and there was a lot of sugar in it. And I ended up gaining over 30 pounds. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I thought was pretty shocking here was the bread. How can you take a loaf of bread and go like this, and it ends up in like this tiny little ball? Bread is very different in Germany, so that was one of the things. And another thing that I thought was very curious is your flag on everything. On everything, even underwear. So there were a lot of things that were very different. And I didn't, get all the inside jokes and some of the things, references of high school. So that was a little hard. But once I got used to that and the culture shock wore off, you immerse yourself a little more into the culture and you got used to living, in the US. And I did a lot of amazing things. I went on a trip, a bus trip through the US. We drove all the way down to California and back up. And I got to experience so many things and the distances and everything that are so different here. And eventually it was time to go home. And so my parents hadn't seen me, except for maybe like some pictures that I had to mail because I had to go to Walgreens and get them printed out. So no, 1994, 95. So, they picked me up from the airport and here I come out, and I picked up a smoking habit here in the US too. So here I come out of the airplane, over 30 pounds overweight. I had a tattoo, which I got in Venice Beach, California. They never really asked my ID or anything. So, that was different too. And my parents had to get used to me again. I had to get used to Germany again because I didn't speak German. I hadn't spoken German in 10 months. So that was, and then I was different. I changed. But over the, following months, and I think this is one of the best things that I've ever done. And I would do it again. And I would tell anybody to go out there and experience this. Even... though the immersion and the culture shock, it takes a little bit of, just, let's do this. It is really worth it in the end. And now let's fly on over to Southeast Asia.
So my name's Julia. I grew up in Tecumseh, Kansas. Have you ever heard of it? No, because it's in the middle of nowhere. And my whole life, I referred to it as a cultural vacuum. I grew up with 5 television channels. And one of those channels happened to be the Travel Channel. And that's where I learned that I just wanted to see the world. And my parents, it never was a priority for them. They never really cared to leave the United States, much less Kansas. Like, oh, there's plenty we can do here. Like, go see the world's largest ball of twine. Yeah, I thought that was boring, to say the least. So by the time I was 22, 23, I was like, I still haven't seen the world. I still haven't seen anything except America. And in that way, I was dwelling in my comfort zone and seeing the world from one type of lens. Think of all the lenses and filters that you can look at the world through. I was looking through it in one lens. And that's what life is when you don't travel. So I decided to go to Cambodia because it was basically the opposite of Kansas. And if you decide to travel, you should do some research and see where you want to go. I wanted to go to Southeast Asia because there was a lot to see there. It was a culture very different from my own. And I knew that I could learn a lot from the people and the culture and the food. As soon as I stepped out of the airport, I was very confused. I felt like a child again. I couldn't read anything. I didn't have anyone there with me. I honestly felt a little lost. But it gave me a new sort of perspective and inspiration for the rest of my life. After I left the airport, I took a tuk-tuk, which is basically a taxi on a bike. So that was great. There's also completely no traffic laws in Cambodia. It's kind of a free-for-all. I was terrified. It was the scariest ride of my life. From there, I took a van to the coast, to a place called Sihanoukville, where I got a hotel room for $7 that night. And it was nice, and right on the beach. Imagine getting that in America. From there, I took a boat to an island where I found that American currency was accepted as a common form of exchange. The Cambodian currency is completely collapsed, and it's basically pennies. The food there, I could get an entire meal, a full table of food for $3. It really opened my eyes to the poverty of other countries and how much we take for granted here in America. For food to be so cheap is actually more expensive for the locals. Everyone walked everywhere. You could walk barefoot. Children ran around naked. that was definitely a time when I was experiencing culture shock, because I was like, where are these children's parents? What are they doing? A child molester is going to come and get them. And no, these indigenous people run around on this island naked. It's normal. And also, stray cows. Like, we're used to stray dogs and stray cats, but not stray cows. So, I learned to deal with culture shock, and it was so important for me. It taught me so many things about the world. Here's how you can do it. You have to do one difficult thing per day, or 2, or 3. Anything that is different is going to be difficult. The walls of your comfort zone are decorated with your favorite excuses not to do something. So don't let your comfort zone dictate what it is that you do for the rest of your life. Talk to others. Find people like yourself. You know, I'm an introvert. Talking to people, especially people outside of my country, was very difficult. But I found a way to do it, and I ended up sitting at a table with people from different continents. We were all traveling through the area. Take time for yourself. I took so much time to reflect on what my experience was and just taking in the beauty of the land. I also encountered plenty of other solo female travelers. One of the things that people told me before I traveled was that you're going to get trafficked into sex slavery. You shouldn't go anywhere alone. And I learned very quickly that that's just a bad American perspective. Be smart, though.